Hello students, once again welcome back to biology class. In the chapter Biodiversity and its conservation we are discussing. In the earlier class we studied about the species area relationship and this concept was given by Alexander von Humboldt. In today's class we will discuss about the importance of the species mainly in this nature as well as the observations done by different scientists. Other than that, we are also going to study about the loss of biodiversity. Well, so when you talk about the importance of the species in this nature, so what is the importance? So, importance of species. Yes, each and every species is very important because they form the most essential and integral part of the food chain or the food web. Yes, they are also involved in ecological balance. If predator is not there, so all the prey, so it may be the herbivores, they keep on competing with each other and they may die very soon by even without food when there is overpopulation happens. So internal competition as well as the disease reduction, okay, and then overpopulation and loss of resources, all is avoided when there is a predator is there above the prey. So the prey population is balanced, prey internal competition is avoided much, and diseased one will be easily caught by the predator and they eat them up. So disease spreading also will be reduced. Thus, in nature we say that presence of each and every species is very essential and important. So as we keep on understanding what makes the species to survive over here, so we call it as a species stability. So species stability, it depends on, we can say that more species that leads to the community success or survival is better. Then less variations among the members of a population, okay, that leads to better survival, we can say. And then resistancy, we can say that resistancy or resilience, okay. So against natural calamities, it may be the drought, okay, it may be the drought, it may be the flood, it may be the forest fire, it may be the infections, okay, all these. Yes, if a population overcome with all these, definitely they survive very well. Resistancy against the natural calamities, yes, against man-made problems, okay, that may be what we can say, yes, deforestation or poaching them out, okay, catching them, killing them, all that. So any animals or the species which are resilient or resistancy or ability to escape from all such kind of threats, they survive well. So the against the natural calamities, against the man-made problems also, yes, they need to be survive. Then only the species stability can exist. So species stability depends on what we can say, mainly more number of species, so community success, less variation among the species themselves or less variation among the members of population, so consistency is maintained, okay. So the regular characteristics are well maintained and they can inherit the better characters to the next generation also. resistance or resiliency against natural calamities as well as man-made problems. So it may be the deforestation, it may be the fire, it may be the what you can say mainly introducing the domesticated animals into the what we can say forest, over exploitation we can say, there may be again over exploitation. All these are mainly man-made problems. If any species overcoming this, definitely they remain stable. So this kind of things, yes, mainly observed by David Tillman. So what David Tillman observed? So David Tillman's observations. David Tillman's observations says that increase in biomass or more variation in the plants, that is very essential for the survival of species. So he says that increase in biomass with less variations. So more species existence. Yes. Population variations should be less. Okay. So all these factors, and even we can say that resistancy and survival. So all these can lead to increase in productivity. So this leads to what we can say the success in the existence of a species. So thus the species are very very important, their existence is important, then only we can say that. One simple example, so all the species in the nature, they do have their own specific role. So when we take an example of mainly the tree frog in Western Ghats, if removed the ant species number, okay, from 20,000 to, yes, from 20,000 it decreases to 15,000. Why? Because of the predator as such tree frog is absent, internal competition will be very high, diseases will be very high, and then the species with their own internal what we can say competition, they harm each other and they die very soon. Thus from 20,000 it may decrease to 15,000. Thus every species in the nature very very important. So thus every species in nature play important role in food chain or food web and brings or contributes ecological balance. So thus species are very very essential and important in the nature. I hope you got a clarity about these points. So when we say that species are stable, then only the community success. How the stability is obtained in the species? When more number of species are existing, yes, community success is very high. Less variations among the members of the same population means all the yes, mainly the members having the same kind of features, and their maybe survival rate is very high, they reproduce very well, right? So thus their survival is very well and they reproduce more also. Then resistance against the man-made problems, resistance against the natural problems also. It may be a drought condition, it may be a flood condition, it may be forest fire, it may be the infections. So with all these, yes, the species which is able to overcome, yes, they will survive very well in the nature. And then David Tillman's observation says that increase in the biomass, he considered the plots or particular area wise or particular geographic region. What he observed, increase in the biomass with less variation gives more amount of food. When biomass is there, the plants are more, herbivores are more, and the result, what we will say, even the carnivores also survive well. More species existence, then population variations are less, and then resistance is more. That all lead to the survival, and that also increase the productivity. So when we talk about the importance of species, as a take a simple example, the tree frog from the Western Ghats, if we remove, what will happen? Tree frog mainly controlling the population of variety of insects including ants also. So considering the ants, there are 20,000 species of ants, but in the absence of the predator like a tree frog, their population or their species number may keep reducing because of their own internal competition and their own internal diseases. They may decrease it to a what you can say number such as 15,000 itself. Thus, every species in the nature or in an ecosystem very important in the food chain as well as in the food web, and brings or they contributes for the ecological balance. This is what we say mainly the importance of the species. So there is one more important concept as such we need to know what it is. It is the observation done by Paul Ehrlich. So Paul Ehrlich's concept we are going to discuss. It is also called as rivet-popper hypothesis. So rivet means screw or the nut bolt we can say. So if we consider the whole ecosystem as a system, so as a system of a flying machine or aeroplane. So if we say that the ecosystem, it is an analogy given by mainly the Paul Ehrlich. So what is the analogy or similarity he gave? So popper. Popper means popping out or removing out. Rivets we are removing. Rivet popper hypothesis. Hypothesis by Paul Ehrlich. What he says? There is a similarity between an aeroplane and ecosystem. Analogy between airplane and ecosystem. Both remains the same only. If you consider ecosystem is an aeroplane, well, so aeroplane is mainly the most important what we can say for the human. Yes, the aeroplane take us mainly from one continent to another continent. Yes, then only will be able to keep moving. So this is the aeroplane and it has mainly its wings, right? So aeroplane with its wings as such. And then yes, here we say the cockpit, and then the windows as such where passengers will be, you can be seeing them. Actually the windows are yes oval by construction, what they have done, oval windows. But what we can find, this is an airplane, but considering this as an ecosystem, aeroplane is made up of lots of what we can say rivets. So rivet. So that is, it has to be considered as species. Then there are the rivets on the wings. okay, the wing. And then here we call them as, these are the special rivets, okay, or they are also called as a key species. So now entire ecosystem is represented as an aeroplane, right? So what we say, the passengers mainly the human start their journey, okay. So while going each passenger, okay, pop out or remove rivets and take with them. That means in an ecosystem, we the human living and we are removing the rivets, means we are removing the species. So it is an analogy of removal of species. So then what happens? Initially no much effect, but as more rivets removed, especially, okay, the rivets of, especially of wings. So the rivets of the wings when removed or key species are removed, that leads to, okay, it leads to aeroplane crash. Means ecosystem become imbalanced. So this is what we say rivet popper hypothesis, which is given by Paul Ehrlich. So one should not go for a removal of these key species, okay, otherwise definitely not only the key species, any species, all the species are very important in this nature. I hope you got an idea related with this. When we say the hypothesis is given by mainly Paul Ehrlich, what he say, he gave an analogy or similarity between an aeroplane as well as an ecosystem. So aeroplane is representing the whole ecosystem. The ecosystem is carrying us, tolerating us, making us to live in this happily, and from birth to death. That is, birth is our starting of the journey, death is our destiny, right? So one day we will die, but before we die, we need not to damage more and more to this ecosystem. So what the human doing? The human ultimately the most dangerous species on this earth, removing number of important and essential key species from the earth or the ecosystem and causing ecological imbalance. Other than that, adding too much of plastic to the nature, right? So for the sake of our survival, we are killing the other species and we are becoming cruel day by day. Well, Paul Ehrlich, he mentioned that it is mainly the species which are very very essential and important, and if you consider ecosystem as an aeroplane, and the rivets or the screws are the species. Every human keep on coming and completing their journey while going, taking out, popping out the screws or the rivets. Ultimately in the beginning no much of the threat, but when there is what we can say too much number of species are removed from this aeroplane or ecosystem, there is what we can say ecosystem crash or aeroplane crash will happen definitely, leading to the death of more and more number of species, including human also. If in this way we keep on damaging or removing the species from the nature, one day there will be no place for the human only. As such, the earth will become the planet without life. So this is what we say the most important concept as such a rivet popper hypothesis. So mainly the passenger or the people or the humans start their journey. While going, each passenger pop out or remove the rivets or the species are removed from the nature. Then what will happen? Initially no much of the effect, the ecosystem may tolerate that, but in the finally when more and more number of species including the key species also removed, then there is a definitely crash of this ecosystem, or airplane will crash, and then no more place for the any kind of the organisms, including the human also. This is what we say the most important concept, Revet Popper hypothesis, given by Paul Ehrlich. Well, let us study again further the loss of biodiversity. We need to understand. The next concept what we are going to discuss is all about loss of biodiversity. Why? What made the reason? Why the diversity we are losing day by day? Yes, there are lots of important concepts we need to understand. So, species loss we need to understand, and then rate of mainly the loss of species. So, when we consider human is ultimate cause for the loss of a variety of species from this earth, there is none other than any reason. It's all the human activities who is dominating on all other species and killing them day by day. So that is the major reason for mainly the loss of species. So let us understand mainly loss of biodiversity. Loss of biodiversity. So the points we are going to discuss mainly species loss. Second, rate of species extinction. Number 3, decline in plant species, increase in variations. Number 5, loss of resistance. Number 6, yes, habitat fragmentation. Number 7, overexploitation. Yes. Number 8, we are going to discuss alien species invasion. Alien species invasion. Number 9, co-extinction. So these are the number of reasons why actually the species are getting lost from this nature. To say that species loss as such, yes, it has been studied by the number of the ecologists. What they say is from the last 20 years, from species loss from last 20 years, more than 27 species have lost. That includes few of the examples: tigers of Java, okay, and then Bali and Caspian. So from these regions, overpoaching of the tigers for their skin, for their nails, for their jaws, we can say, for the canine teeth. Yes, people keep on killing the tigers, and even some people believe that the bone marrow of the tigers gives a aphrodisiac or sexual strength. So with all these wrong assumptions and the greed of the human caused mainly decrease in the number of population or species of the tiger. Other than that, there is one more animal, thalassin. Thalassin is also called as Tasmanian tiger wolf. Tasmanian tiger wolf disappeared from Australia. Yes, it has been disappeared. Other than that, dodo, the bird dodo disappeared from Mauritius. And then there is one more, quagga. Quagga is a plain zebra. Has been disappeared from Africa. And stellar sea cows. Stellar sea cows. Yes, from Russia. And overeating and killing the birds such as passenger pigeons from USA. Passenger pigeons of USA. So all these species have been disappeared from the nature because of the over greediness of the humans and over exploitation and killing them every now and then for the sake of one or other reason. Okay, so this is what we say, species lost as such. So there are number of species also, yes, do exist with a lots of threat, we can say. So species threatened, here species threatened according to IUCN red data. So red data of IUCN 2004, it says that nearly, we can say that nearly 500 species have been disappeared. Okay, so more than, we can say that 784, we can say that many number of species have been disappeared from the last 5 years. Nearly 784 species disappeared from last 500 years. What are those? Let us understand. They may be, what we can say, the vertebrate species. Vertebrates as such 338 species. And then invertebrates as such 359 species. And then plants as such 87 species. Altogether 784 species totally. Okay, totally, yes, totally 784 species have been disappeared from the last 500 years. This is what we can say, mainly species under threat. Similarly, most affected species, mainly we call them as amphibians. So most affected species are amphibians because they are the seasonal breeders. Most affected species are amphibians. Nearly 15,500 species under threat. Mainly, yes, 15,500 species under threat. Other than this, we can say that organisms and percentage threat they are facing. It may be the birds, 12% of bird species, mammals, 23% of species, amphibians, okay, mainly 32% of amphibians, then gymnosperms, yes, mainly gymnosperms under threat is 31%. So this is what to talk all about the species threatened. So these are the things you need to remember very well. So that's when we talk about the species loss. So number of species lost so far is very high as such. We can say that from last 20 years, one information says 27 species disappeared. That includes mainly the tiger, thalassin, dodo, quagga, stellar sea cow and passenger pigeon because of over exploitation or over hunting them. Similarly, 784 species from last 500 years disappeared. That includes mainly vertebrates, invertebrates and plants. And then organisms under threat, most importantly the amphibians, 15,500 species under threat. And percentage wise if we calculate, yes, they can be birds 12%, mammals 23%, amphibians 32% and gymnosperms are 31% under threat. This is the scenario because all it is due to the human, yes, greediness or over exploitation by the human. Well, so this is all about regarding the species lost so far we discussed. The remaining concept we will discuss in the next class. Till then, take care, study well. Thank you very much.